This is Ready, Set, Reiki, a podcast about Reiki and all energy work, from the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, and all levels. Reiki is a journey and not a destination. And on this Ready, Set, Reiki journey, I refer to myself as a guide rather than a host, as I too am traveling, helping, supporting others, and learning on this Reiki journey as well. And with that said, I am your guide, Tracy C. Wright, and this is Ready, Set, Reiki. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Ready, Set, Reiki. What a wonderful journey we have planned for today. I have a wonderful guest waiting just to come on. But first, let me tell you some incredible things that are happening. So Ready, Set, Reiki, Feather Sister Wellness is offering trainings coming in August. So check out that, www.feathersister.com. You'll find a yin training, Holy Fire training, and a Mario Reiki training. So check that out. But let's get back to the reason why we're here today, our amazing and incredible guest. And that is Michele London. Now, she is a certified Corona Holy Fire 3 Reiki master teacher. In addition to her Reiki background, she also practices other healing modalities, such as advanced light language, trance channel mediumship, and sound healing. Now, she offers private Reiki healing sessions in person and remotely, as well as teaching Reiki certification courses in person online. Along with her work as a trance channel, she currently is in the process of publishing her very first book. How exciting. And that specifically engages the reader with her spirit guide, who is a galactic mantis being of light. Her practice is in Great Neck, New York, and you can find out more about her by visiting her website, which I will put in the show notes. So let's give a warm Ready, Set, Reiki welcome to Michele. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Tracy. So great to be here.
Wonderful. Well, let's begin our journey together. So gave the listeners just a little taste of who you are. So tell us about yourself.
Well, listen, I've been a longtime spiritualist my whole life, and practicing. I'm from Connecticut, so I come from the sticks. And as I grew up, I was gravitating more towards city life. So then I moved to Manhattan when I was in my 30s, and now as I am going through, I'm an empty nester. My kids out of the house, and now I'm feeling disconnected from the city life that I sought out. So my roots are country, but I've always had a spiritual bent to me. So ever since I was probably 16, 17, 18, my awakening started happening very slowly. And it took some hiatuses here and there. When I was a single mom raising my kid, I was tunnel vision focused on raising him. But the spirituality took like maybe a back seat. But now that, like I said, I'm an empty nester, it's coming full force all the way back, to my beginnings, my roots.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love that you say that because, and you may have students that come to your door and they want to do this now, but there are seasons where you need to pause through motherhood, and that it does take a backseat because they'll see you as now, like, but you're doing this and you're doing that. But like, wait a minute, like I had seasons where I was taking care of my children, where I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. And that's important work as well, to take this time. So know that this is not the end of your story. So if you're in a situation where, you are that single parent and you have the kids and you got pregnant or whatever is happening in your life, there's a reason for that. This is this time to learn and grow, because you will help somebody later on, right? Who's in that similar situation. You're like, hey, keep at it. Hold on. It's going to happen for you. Different seasons. And I too am an empty nester, with the kids all gone and grown up. And it's a shifting, it's a change too, but it's also a growing experience. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. So someone who's listening, like, it's impossible. I have all these kids and how can I do this work? But you can. I remember with my kids, and before I even knew about Reiki, when my daughter started to drive, I would go out and I'd lay hands on the car and I would pray before I even knew about Reiki. So these are little things that you can do for your family. This is the practice, the practitioner in you, as you're kind of sharpening your tools, right? And working and exercising those energetic muscles there.
I
Well,
love how you put that. That's beautiful.
so we're here about the Reiki energy. When did Reiki come into your life? Did you find Reiki or did it find you?
I think that that's a good question. There are times where Reiki found me, but then again, like depending on where I was in my life, I put it on the back. I was exposed to Reiki since I was in my early 20s because when I was in my early 20s, I was working in salons. I was a hairdresser, and so every once in a while, we would have a Reiki practitioner come in. I'm talking a long time ago, and so I became very familiar with the art of energy healing in my early 20s. What's so surprising to me is that today, I'm 61. Today, I still am flabbergasted almost and I live in a metropolitan city. I live in New York. That people are still unfamiliar with what Reiki is. It's really amazing to me, but it's true.
Yeah.
So there's so much room for growth within this field. But then, as when COVID hit, I think everybody found, or, if you took the opportunity or not, I feel a lot of people did take the opportunity to go inward during the COVID epidemic. And I thought it was a great opportunity for people to do their own soul searching. And at that time also, my my 9-to-5 job that I was doing for like 20 plus years was sort of being eliminated. And I saw the writing on the wall, and I knew I had to at some point replace that. And it wasn't going to be the same industry because I had expunged that. I no longer resonated with it. And so during that whole COVID shutdown is when I said, you know what, let me get my Reiki certification and see where this takes me. And that's really about 5 years ago. So considering, I'm sure you've spoken to many people, I guess you consider a late bloomer when it comes to being a Reiki practitioner and, doing this for a living now. In the whole scheme of things, but yeah.
Well, you look at the age of Dr. Azui, right?
Yeah,
when he connected
you're
with the
right.
energy. So yeah, it really can happen at any time. When you look at it, I think it's rather not time, it's alignment.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
alignment. So, but yeah, that just seems that year was a great awakening. This year, I feel it's the great upheaval. Everything.
Yes.
So I'm calling it the great upheaval, letting go of houses and all kinds of things. And so something's going to happen because of this things moving and shifting. But that was a pivotal year of just that awakening. Yeah. So as you've been out, as you've been learning, as you've been growing, as you've been working with students, what are you finding? You had mentioned that people didn't know what Reiki was, but what are you finding the misconceptions about Reiki?
I think that with people who have never had a Reiki treatment before, who are exposed to it for the first time, they think that you, the practitioner, are some guru and it's coming out of you. And so that is the biggest misconception. Me explaining to them that it's not me, it's not coming from me, it's coming from source consciousness, God, Goddess, all that is, whatever name that you want to attach to it. And we all have access to it. And so we, the Reiki practitioners, are really just the facilitators. I always say that it's my job to create the environment, to set the mood, to set the table, to then allow for you to bring in your experience and to empower you to figure out how to do your own self-healing. So I'm all about empowering people, helping them find ways to then be able to do it to themselves, regardless if they're certified in Reiki or not. People all have the ability to tap into that universal consciousness, that universal stream of energy that we all have access to. So that's probably the biggest misconception.
Very good. Like instead of the master, that you're just a guide, right? That you are the energy coordinator, that you're helping, like, hey, you're doing this within. I'm just here holding space for you and helping you get back to that true, authentic nature of yourself. Yeah. And it's just interesting when you had mentioned about people not knowing. And with the help of social media, of course, TikTok,
Yeah.
this accessibility of it. But even when I teach yoga, there's people like, well, I don't know what that is. And I don't know that was this many styles of it. So there's still people out there that are like, yeah, I don't know what this is. Or they attach that dogma to it. They think it's about a religion, or it has to be woohoo. That's another one that often gets stated. But it's something that you kind of really, it's hard to describe. It's something you have to experience.
And also, I will say that, because of all the social media and the algorithms that are being flooded to me because of what I'm interested in on social media, I'm going to get back more of that, as everybody is. And so then when I go, everything is being thrown at me. I have every kind of spiritual class or healing modality. I'm surrounded by it on social media because that's what I'm attracted. So then when I go out and I teach my classes, I do teach a non-Reiki class. It's more of a spiritual class at one of the local community colleges nearby. And when I start to speak the lingo, they're looking at me like, what's that? And I'm like, whoa, it's like, I forget that people are they're seeking the information, but they really are kind of like in the dark for the most part. So and they're just like so curious as to my point of view and what I have to bring to the table in the conversation. It's very inspirational for me. I hope that I'm inspirational for them to then take it to the next level in their own seeking. But it's really eye-opening for me to see how many people are just little babies. Just little babies, just like really just, have been so subjected to their whatever religion that they have been affiliated with. And not that they're finding anything wrong with it necessarily, but they're looking for more and more and more connection, more answers in a deeper way that maybe the religion isn't giving them.
Right.
And they're not so afraid to start looking outside the religion, which I think is wonderful.
Right. And you also do advanced light language, and I do light language, but just watching people's faces, because they think our brain is wiring to what are you saying? And they're not understanding it's just the tone of it, the vibration, things like that. And they're trying to piece together, are they saying something instead of just experiencing it? So I usually get really strong reactions like, what is this?
That's so funny. I know. Light language, I actually was exposed to, I want to say about 4 years ago when I took a class. I'm a class taker too. I'm always taking classes, something that I find interesting and something that appeals to me. I'm going to take the class. And then if I really resonate with it, then I turn it into a class that then I teach, because I feel like I'm kind of like a natural born teacher. That's something that is innate in me, that I want to do that. So I was exposed to about 5 years ago when I took a sound healing shamanic. They didn't call it light language at that time. It was a weekend online course from a center out in Oregon. And I had an experience during that weekend course with it. I felt a shift in energy for sure. But then I wanted to incorporate it into my Reiki work, and I found that I was stifled with fear and I just wasn't ready. And then fast forward 3 years later, when I decided to take a trance channeling mediumship course, light language was a part of that, because light language really is a form of channeling. So it was a natural progression. And then it was my second introduction to it. And then during that time, boom, the floodgates just opened up. All of a sudden, I was just like completely uninhibited. I was doing it in the car. I was doing it, and I heard it in my head. Everyone has their own experience with it, but that's when it really kicked in for me. Is when I took that channeling course.
Right. It's amazing. So you're out helping others through all of your work. And as you're helping and guiding them through that, when you look back at your journey, what has been the biggest challenge or struggle that you have faced in your own healing journey?
Let me think about this one. Well, I guess the biggest challenge for me is to, I don't want to say it's a challenge, because actually, I'm going to say that I really haven't had that big of a challenge. And here's what I mean. I I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. The work that I did before was very entrepreneurial, but I did it for a different company. So I would go into small businesses and help them bolster their business. So now I'm doing it for myself. And now for the first time that I'm doing it for myself, it's just like happening so fast. So I feel it's almost been a realization. I can't say that I've really had any huge challenges because it's relatively been very easy. I'm getting, you found me. It's just one synchronicity after another, and it's just really a beautiful thing. And so I'm just kind of like enjoying the ride right now to see where it's going to take me.
Sure. Yeah, you're into the attraction, not the chasing.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I'm in the flow.
Because you're doing the work, right?
Yeah.
We're letting it flow. Yeah. And so that definitely shows you that you're in alignment, right, with your purpose, that it's showing up. There's, no real effort to it, right? I mean, of course, you have to show up for those things, but you're not having to battle and work at it. So oftentimes, as we are practitioners, we become master teachers, and we get to that point where, we're bringing in our precepts, we're doing the work on ourselves. And sometimes we don't have that opportunity to seek others to give us a little tune-up. So when you look back at your journey and when you've gone to those Reiki practitioners, master teachers, what are those qualities that you look for in a Reiki practitioner, whether you need a tune-up or you feel called like, hey, that's my person, I want to train with you?
Yeah. And I love the way you said tune-up, because that's exactly how I tell people, how I tell my clients, because they say, when should I come back? When you feel like you need a tune-up. I love that. But what I look in for my own healing, if I wanted to seek out an energy healer, it would be authenticity. It would just somebody who is really into what it is they put their spin on it. I want people to be able to not mimic anybody else, but find their own unique way of expressing their own way of, doing Reiki or whatever healing modality that they're doing. That's empowering. And that's what I try to instill in my students too, is I'm teaching you, I'm certifying you in this course, but at the end of the day, I encourage you need to find your own way, your own voice, and how to express that. And so I have friends that we, barter off of each other. I'll call her up and I said, let's just do a switch. Like, I'll do you, you do me. And it's great. We have this little network that we can do that. And that's what happens when you become a Reiki practitioner, is you start to attract, like you said, all these other healing people in your life. And then you develop this little network and you give treatments to each other. And I just do you do exactly what you do. And when I do Reiki on you, I do me. And so that's the best way to approach it, is instead of saying, well, I wouldn't do it this way as they're giving me Reiki. Well, I wouldn't do it that way. What is she doing over there? No. Just surrender to the process and let them do exactly their bit, like what it is that they do, what resonates with them. And that's the best advice that I can give anybody.
Right. And I love it that you're supporting each other back and forth, and having that energetic exchange instead of one person just giving back and forth. Wonderful. Yes. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you have all these wonderful modalities that you've been working with. You've spoken about how you have experience working with other businesses, helping them out. And so you've been moving forward with your own business. But as you're here in this moment in time, what advice would you give someone who's just entering this type of work?
I would say one step at a time. Don't become so overwhelmed with the process, because as all spiritual teachers tell you, it's all in the journey, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you all of a sudden think that you have to have X, Y, and Z immediately, this idea of instant gratification, you're going about it the wrong way. So just one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, and let it unfold, let it flower, let it blossom organically, and just see where the journey takes you, because that's the beauty of it. And just like I said earlier, just making, that puts you in the flow. And then once you're in the flow, it starts to come to you. Opportunities start to come to you. Right. And that's where the magic is.
Beautiful. What books do you recommend?
I am an avid reader and I'm constantly reading. And, I have to tell you that there's one book that I don't even know if it's in print anymore, but it changed my life at the age of 18. And it was a book written by a medium called Ruth Montgomery. I don't even know, Tracy, if you're familiar with Ruth Montgomery, but she's like really old, like not as old as Edgar Cayce, but she was big, I want to say, in the 1970s.
Wow.
And I read her book for the first time called The World Before. And she's written many books. But this one was about the creation of life on Earth and our place in the universe. And I've read that book like 10 times over. And I probably have it somewhere in my house. I don't know where it is, but you might be able to find it on eBay, but it's called The World Before by Ruth Montgomery. But the other book that I wanted to mention was this book changed my life. And this book is called, I don't know if you can see it backwards on the screen, but it's called The Freedom Transmissions by Yeshua. And it's a channeled piece by, her name is Carissa Schumacher.
Right.
And this was a channeled book by a woman who channeled Yeshua. And it was one of the most beautiful, uplifting, spiritual. Sometimes when you read a book, you all of a sudden you're meditating. You don't even realize it. That you're connecting so deeply with the words that you're actually in an altered state. And that's how I felt the whole time I was reading this book. This book had such an impact on me that I named my business after a concept in this book, which is wheat and chaff. And so this whole concept of wheat and chaff and how Yeshua describes wheat being the spiritual essence inside of us, and the chaff, which is the husk of the wheat, which is our encasing, which is our body. And we need to spend more time with our wheat, our inner wheat. And so that was a beautiful analogy that was made over and over throughout the book. But yeah, I recommend anybody reading that book.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So what other services do you offer? Do you offer classes, events, trainings?
I am a Gemini. So what that means is that I get bored doing the same thing over and over again. And I like to offer a lot of variety. So if I find something that inspires me, I'm going to make a class out of it. So right now, what I do, if you go on my website, is I do on location, I'll do sound healing. I have a bunch of crystal bowls that are Tibetan singing bowls. So I'll engage people. I'll tell people that I can go to your baby shower or a local library that I do quite often. So I can go on location and bring my singing bowls to you for your engagement. That's one thing that I do. But I also teach Reiki certification courses in person locally at a center here where I live, but I also teach them online. So levels 1, 2, and master levels online courses. And they're live. So they're not modules. And I'm very passionate about that because I feel like there's a lot out there as far as, modules. And I think people are missing that human connection. So even online, I'm there with you every step of the way in those classes. And the other class that I teach also is this spiritual class called Ways to Connect to Spirit. And it really is a hodgepodge of light language. I have a whole class on our connecting to our galactic heritage. I'm very much into our galactic history. And I'm very impassioned about that. And then crystal knowledge. And so we have aspects of that. I put a little bit of Reiki in that. So that's sort of like a mixed class that it's great. I love it. And people are very open to it too.
Wonderful. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on my website at www.wheat not wheat and. So I know that's a popular saying, wheat and the chaff separating, but it's wheat in chaff, CHAFF.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, that ends the first part of our journey, and I'm going to continue to guide you into the second part, which are questions by listeners and by Reiki students. So here we go. Number 1, when did you discover your ability to trance channel?
Well, I would have to go back really far on that one because I was exposed to somebody in my 20s when I was working in Manhattan. And, it was a woman who was I went to her and she was able to connect you to your spirit guides. And I want to say in a very primitive, very simple way. but it was something that I embraced and it stayed with me my whole life. Now, when I say a simple communication with your spirit guides, it was really simply moving my head in a yes or no, almost like using your body as a dowse. And so I communicated with my spirit guides for like over 30 years that way. And it wasn't until really recently when I was talking to I was actually talking to my Reiki master teacher when I was becoming certified as a master. She said, Michelle, I think that you have a gift with this. I think you need to explore this even further. And I'm like, yeah, I do feel like I have a calling to like expand upon this very simple way that I have been communicating with my guides. And so I looked and looked on the internet and I found a woman in Tennessee in the Knoxville area. And she had courses that she was teaching the ways to, trance channel. And it was a very intensive 2-year course every Saturday for 2 years. And I took it all the way to the top. And during that 2-year period, it was such an expansion for me. I have a connection to one guide in particular. I call them Chow. But during that 2-year period, I was exposed to many of my spirit guides in my inner circle, outer circle. And that's sort of how it all came to be.
Beautiful. Well, that works in well to the second question. How your spirit guides with your personal and business?
So you froze for a second. So you were saying how my spirit
instrumental is your spirit guides into your personal and practice, or your practice and your business.
Yeah. Well, they're completely intertwined, completely intertwined because it's part of everything that I do. I'm in constant communication and people think that when you trance channel, you're constantly like going into trance, but it's not that way at all. You're actually just having inner dialogues with them, knowing that their presence is there. And it can manifest in many different ways, from writing to just inner knowingness, to actually hearing voices. It's different for everybody. But for me, I feel like I'm in constant communication with them. So if I am in a situation where should I go this way or should I go that way, if I'm developing a course or any aspect of my life, even the people in my life, my family, my inner circle, challenges in relationships that we all have, sometimes I have to know when to hold back and when to share, because a lot of times people aren't ready to hear the truth in their lives, and it can be construed as me being judgmental, but it's me just having the insight. And oh God, I can see the writing is on the wall. I know exactly what's happening with this person, but I have to zip it because they're not asking me for it, and I think that a lot of channels and a lot of psychic mediums also probably are challenged with this as well. But I feel I'm always connected with them. And the more that I interact with the energy, and by the way, when you are a Reiki practitioner, as you know, Tracy, that just is a gateway to all the other energies that are coming in. It just opens the doors to it.
Sure.
And so it brings to you things like when I started doing Reiki, I had no idea that I was going to veer off in this direction into trance channeling at all. If you asked me when I was starting, I couldn't even conceive that I was doing this now.
Absolutely.
So it really does open up the doors to that.
Yeah. It's almost like the Windex that clears the view.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's okay if like Reiki's not your thing, but perhaps it was necessary on the journey to get where you're supposed to be, right? It could be that kickstart of it as well. But I've been in situations where I'll hear something, dream something, know something, and it's not good news. And how do you say it? And then I'll pray about it. Like, God, what do I do with this information? And I won't say it, and things come to pass. And then you feel that guilt about it. But you have to really look at, well, this person may not want to hear this. And especially like if I'm on social media and I scroll and I see somebody and I see something, it's like, and you reach out to them, they're going to think you're crazy. Right.
Right.
Like, you're like, what is, and And there's so many scammers out there that want services. And it's not that I want anything, but I'm just warning you that I see that, or this is happening.
Right.
I don't want any money for it. Like, I'm not trying to get services. Like, it's genuine worry or genuine concern. And
Yeah.
so I really struggle with what to do, what to say. Do I keep quiet? And one of my first Reiki master teachers had told me, well, that's about ego, Tracy. You need to work on your ego. You don't always have to tell them everything,
Right.
But I'm like, but it came through for a reason, maybe. And she goes, again, that's your ego. So
that is so interesting. I love that perspective. I'm going to have to remember that.
Yeah. And so I have to pause, and I have to pause because it'll hit. And it's like, and especially in the early days of my Reiki sessions, I would see something and I'm like, wow, the number 5 came up. And my teacher's like, no, you don't have to say whatever pops into your head. They may not be ready for this. Like, you're going to, and I didn't get it until when my father passed, and I got connected to someone who was a psychic medium, and I was living in Pittsburgh at the time. And she said, your dad has a message for you. And I'm like, okay, and she said, he's showing me a coffin. And I thought, oh no, who's dying? And I just was so consumed with someone was going to die that I completely missed the point, forgot about everything else she said. Because we had so much death at that time. I'm like, no, not again. And I remember getting off the call with her and calling my kids, is everybody okay? What's going on? And I just wasn't ready. My nervous system wasn't ready for it. Right. And that's just, I get it now. I get it. They're going to have a different idea of what I'm seeing or feeling, and it might do more harm than good. So,
yeah. Oh, that's beautifully said. And as I'm thinking about my personal life too, it's true. It is ego. Mm-hmm. I don't need to tell that person anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
yeah. And something came up it was on Instagram, and there it was. And I saw this. I'm like, do I tell this person? Okay. I don't know them this well. They're going to be like, what is she saying? And I'm just like, okay, God, I'm just going to give this to you because I don't know what else to do with this. Yeah. 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 So it's interesting. And see, this is doing the work.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Number 3, what inspired you to write a book? You're working on your very first book. So kudos to that.
Thank you. I'm very excited about that. It really was my developing relationship with my premier guide, Chow, that spurred the whole thing. So I had a reading with my teacher, I was visiting her in Tennessee, and was very early on in the classes, the trance channeling classes. And she saw them, and we were talking about how she was offering during that session. She was, as a side note, she has a friend who's in the publishing business, or she's a writer, and she offers a course in self-publishing. And it was then that I made the connection between my relationship with my guide that I was fostering, that was developing, into this desire that I've always had to write a book. I always had a desire to write a book, and it was always on the back burner. I never really gave it too much thought because I had no idea what the book would be about. But when I started developing my relationship with my spirit guide, that's when I knew that I had a lot of information to share, and they were the vehicle that was going to do it for me. And that's what started the whole thing. So right after, and we're talking, so I've been on a 2-year journey with this book. It took me a year, a little over a year to write it, but it's taken me another year to go through the editing process. And I really thought that I was going to self-publish it very simply, but it just so happens how synchronicities work. I was presented with this, I went to a retreat in Sedona, Arizona last September. And I was just, oh my God, I was such an urge, such a call. I need to go to this retreat because there was a speaker there that I was really loved, resonated with. And I'm like, I have to go to this. And so I went, but that's where I met my publisher, because the person who was on the panel, who was running the retreat, she's from California, and she publishes books just on spirituality, just on, this genre. And I gave her my manuscript and she goes, yeah, she goes, we can do something here. And so I've been editing it and it's probably going to be done hopefully by the end of this year. And it's really exciting. But you see, I mean, I share this story with everybody to say that when you act upon your hunches, especially if you have this like belly gut knowingness that this is something that you need to do, don't ignore it. Because I had no idea that I was going to meet my publisher. I thought I was going to self-publish this book. And boy, I'm so glad that I didn't, because with all the rewriting that's been happening with the book, it's going to be so much better than if I were to have self-published it. So much better.
Yeah. And reframe the delays is just, again, things getting into alignment, right?
Yes.
And look at it as a positive. I always tell my kids, like, rejection is protection, delays are just the universe getting things into place. So yeah, trust the process, go with the flow, right?
Go with the flow.
Well, that was our last question. And as we've been talking, is there anything that you may have forgotten or something that you'd like to share? The floor is yours.
Well, I just want to share my gratitude and thanks for you, Tracy, for reaching out to me. I think what you do is amazing and helping people like me to get our message out in the world and to share in our awakening process, share in our ascension work that we're doing here on our planet and with individual souls and as a collective. And I think that what you do is such a beautifully needed offering. And I give you thanks for that. And thank you for finding me and letting me come on your show.
And thank you for doing all the work that you're doing for Reiki, for helping others, light language, your trance channeling. It's all beautiful things. So thank you for continuing on your journey as well.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Wonderful. All right, my wonderful listeners, if you want your question featured on Ready, Set, Reiki, reach out, www.readysetreiki.com, or check it out on social media. I'm Tracy C. Wright, and this is Ready, Set, Reiki.